Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. But if you're new, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Today is episode 5 of Vegan Fit series. So let's see who's today's guest. Let's see what we're gonna talk about. Hello!
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today's episode. I can't wait to chat with you and go through all the questions. Thank you so much. So to start, let's introduce you and just start by saying what's your job, what's your background, and
Sure. So I'm Kat. I am a figure skater and figure skating coach, and I am also vegan.
Amazing. So first question, when did you become vegan and why? So give me all the story, all the background, everything.
Sure, absolutely. So I was actually vegetarian for most of my life before I went vegan. Basically from the time that I was old enough to tell my parents, like, I'm not going to eat meat, I was vegetarian. And the only thing that I ate that was like animal product based was dairy. And I did that because I had been told that dairy cows are treated a lot better than other animals. And one day I actually looked into it for myself and I found that that was just not true and they are not treated well. And my primary reason for being vegetarian was moral. And I went vegan for the same reasons. As I, learned more information, I decided that I should be fully vegan and I never went back. So that was how.
Amazing. Yeah. So how did you start to thinking about, going plant-based or vegan? Did you see something or where did it come from?
So when I was like really, really little, like my parents would try it, mostly my mom, because she was worried about like me getting enough protein, because it was like
Okay.
perception. I think it still is that it's hard to get protein on a plant-based diet. So she would try to get me to eat. She had like a 3-bite rule. Like I had to have 3 bites of like the chicken or whatever, and I was always upset about it. I was like naturally grossed out by meat when I was really little. And then as I got older, I developed more of like an actual moral position about it. So this
Okay.
was something that just, again, once I got to a certain age, I was like, no, I'm just not going to do it anymore. But it was something that like I sort of felt naturally for a
Yeah.
long. And something
Yeah.
that's very, I thought, oh, if the cow is like treated well, maybe that's okay. And then I found out that it wasn't true. And I actually made the decision to go from like vegetarian to vegan, like on the spot. And one day, like my boyfriend and I were walking to get burritos. This was like 5 years ago. And he
Yeah.
said, because I actually convinced him to be vegetarian. And that took like,
Okay.
I got him to be vegetarian. And he'd been vegetarian for maybe a year. And he
Mhm.
said, we skip the dairy when it's easy, when, whatever we're eating is just as good without it. And I told him, I was like, well, the only reason that I eat dairy and not other animal products is, I think cows are treated a lot better. And I was like, but why don't we actually look it up? So we looked it up when we were like walking to get burritos. And I was horrified. And we were both just like, let's go vegan right now. Let's go get our burrito without cheese. We did not miss it at all. And then later we discovered that you can still have your burrito with cheese. Like there are cheeses. Like we didn't, that at that time we didn't even know that that was an option. So it's amazing how
Yeah.
if you know what's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So you always been a figure skater? Did you start when you was really little?
Oh, great question. So actually my first sport was gymnastics. I did gymnastics for 8 years. So from the time I was like 4 years old until I was about 13. And when I was 12, my soon-to-be best friend invited me to a public skate because she was a figure skater. And I was just like amazed by what she could do. I was like watching her spin, watching her just like skate around gracefully. I was like, oh, this is so cool and this is so much fun. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to do lessons. I want to do this. I was starting relatively late. Anyone who's interested in starting skating and feels like it's too late, it's never too
Mhm.
late. You can start when you're 12. You can start when you're 17. I know people who started when they're 60. You can start at any time. So I picked up lessons that spring and I was just in love with it. And I did both for about a year. And
Yeah.
gymnastics I felt was more dangerous. It was like more prone to injury, even though I had injuries with both. I just felt like I was more anxious about it and I was really passionate about skating. It was new to me. I was excited about it. And then I transitioned to figure skating fully.
So let's say that when you started gymnastic and all that stuff, you was vegetarian back then. So how your training and let's say your energy level and everything changed when you swapped to veganism? Did you find any changes, bad and good? You want to explain maybe?
That's a good question. So when I started gymnastics, I was really little. So at that point, I was still being required to eat like some animal protein, some meat. I don't really remember any change from eating a little bit of meat to being vegetarian. I did find, because I was much older when I went vegan, that I felt, if anything, better. I was amazed that like everything, I was worried like, okay, I'll miss yogurt, well I miss cheese, well I miss ice cream, like certain things that were a big part of my diet. I'm like, if those are gone, like what will I eat? I think a lot of people wonder like, what will I eat if I go vegan? So like I start every morning with like a vegan yogurt, and like before that it was dairy-based yogurt. And I was, that was just such a simple change. I found vegan yogurts that I liked right away. There are multiple options. You have to just like find what works for you. And I also
Yeah.
found I had certain bad eating habits. Like I would get really into something like gelato, for example. Like I ate a lot of gelato. And going vegan, I was like, okay, eventually I discovered there are, really good vegan ice creams, but it kind of
Mm-hmm.
some of my bad eating patterns. So if anything, I felt better. Like I felt like it wasn't hard for me to eat the same foods that I wanted to be eating, that I wanted to be part of my diet, and certain things that weren't so good for me, it kind of naturally cut them out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, amazing. So, because I'm thinking about you went fully vegan 5 years ago, yes?
yeah,
So at that time, there was many choice like now, in the supermarket, grocery store, or there wasn't too much.
I so
Like,
I
yeah.
that's a good question, and I'd be interested to know like exactly when so many vegan options started coming in. I'm not sure if it's just that I started discovering them, or if
Hmm.
some of them are actually like very recently introduced. Because the longer
Yeah.
that I've been vegan, I've discovered more options. I've discovered that there's an alternative for pretty much everything. Like it's amazing. Um, and I've also, switched up some of the things I eat. Like I used to do almond milk, and I discovered that like consumes a lot more water. It's not as good for the environment. I also discovered that I really like oat milk, which I'd never even heard of until like I think it was a little more than a year ago.
Mm.
I was in New York for a day, visiting a friend, and he works at a coffee shop, and he was like, "Oh, you should try the hot chocolate with oat milk." And I was like, "Oh, I've never
Yeah.
heard," you know. And I discovered I really liked it, and now that's what I eat my cereal with instead of almond milk. But I definitely think when I was really young, like a lot of people thought you can't get enough protein, and there definitely weren't. Like I know it's relatively recent, like there were not all of these options before. Now it's so much easier to go vegan.
Yeah, definitely. Because if I'm talking to people that have been vegan maybe for 10 years or so, I always ask that question because they always told me, oh, there wasn't that much choice. You were lucky now.
Yeah.
The transition is much easier. So everybody told me that we're actually lucky that anyone now can swap without being too difficult. Because there is alternative to basically everything right now. Even here in UK, like when I moved here about 7 years ago, I wasn't vegan, but I could see that there was not much choice. Now, in every aisle of the supermarket, you will see that there is a choice, for us. So, yeah, it's amazing. So, about your diet and nutrition, because of course you are an athlete. I mean, you do sport, you've been active all your life. You have a certain nutrition plan that you follow, or do you have maybe a coach that writes your diet, or is yourself, looking for calories or what to eat?
So, I basically do intuitive eating, which means like
Mm-hmm.
when I'm hungry, I stop when I'm full. I try to make sure that I'm eating well and like getting enough protein. I can kind of tell you what like my typical day looks like. I usually
Yeah.
start with a vegan yogurt. That's something that I almost always have for breakfast because I feel like it
Mm-hmm.
gives me good energy, but it's
Yeah.
also relatively light. Like you don't want to feel like you're super full when you're like jumping and like skating really hard. So I find that that's something that's great to start my day before I skate. And I
Mm-hmm.
also bring with me to the rink, like I'll bring a box of crackers. I always have that in my bag, and I have protein bars. So between
Yeah.
that I'm skating, like there will be like a 10-minute resurface. I'll usually like eat some crackers in between, like just for a little bit of energy
Yeah.
between sessions. And then in between like my skating and my coaching, I'll often have like a protein bar. And then I'm coaching for a few hours, so I'll like often bring like a banana or like some other fruit and some nuts to snack on in between sessions.
Yeah.
And then when I come home,
Amazing. Yeah.
really tired. And my partner is a medical student, so he's usually
Okay.
tired too. So we're lucky that we live somewhere, and I think this is becoming true in a lot of places now. But we're lucky
Mm.
that we have a lot of restaurants that have really good vegan options. So
Okay.
often like come home and like order, Chinese, order some kind of like tofu dish, like
Yeah.
amazing, like the broccoli with garlic sauce, like so tasty, relatively healthy,
Yeah.
you know, and good for the animals. So
Yeah, that's what I wanted to
Cool.
ask because of course your schedule is so busy. So how do you, you know, prioritize healthy food? Because of course in reality it's not possible to eat 100% clean, even though veganism maybe sometimes should be like clean eating. That's
Yeah.
why I always differentiate on whole food, plant-based, and let's say junk food side
Yeah.
of plant-based, because we can actually do both. And I
Right.
always say that it depends what you do. And if you do it for against animal cruelty, maybe you know that you know you don't care really if you're eating that, but if you are doing sport like yourself, do you
Yeah.
actually prioritize certain food? For example, do you have a certain amount of protein that you want to eat every day to be able to stay healthy? Do you have something that you follow for you?
So I think I'm probably unusual in this aspect where I don't really have like a target amount of protein or anything
Okay.
like that, but I have like certain things. I basically try to do things that are like little to zero prep up until dinner
Mm,
because I'm so busy. I'm like, okay, I want to make sure I get to the rink early enough to do my off ice before I skate. So I prioritize that over maybe having like a little bit more ideal breakfast than the vegan yogurt. Like maybe I could make some kind of like oatmeal and like put fruit in it and like have a little bit more protein, have something a little bit more um,
mm,
healthy. If I have more time, I would try to eat a little bit cleaner, although I think it's good to eat things that are fun too.
yeah.
I basically try to make my day relatively consistent and planned out with things that I know I'll feel good eating these things because I'm used to them and I know I have energy, I can make it through my day. So my staples are like vegan yogurt, protein bars. Like I really like the like Nugo, I think is how you say it. Protein bars. I don't know if you've had those, but I have these ones like, that are so good. They're like chocolate pretzel. That was
Okay, okay.
I swear. Um,
Yeah.
and I also take like a multivitamin, and it's really important if you're vegan to make sure you're getting enough B12.
Mm,
So
yeah.
I take a supplement for. Um,
Yeah. Do you use any protein powder, perhaps like shakes or anything like this to
I don't
supplement?
no, I do protein bars and I do like nuts, lentils, hummus, and tofu. So I feel like I do have a decent number of protein sources, but if I had to tell you like how many grams of protein I get, I couldn't.
Yeah.
This is something that again I'd love to learn more about. I've always been really interested in nutrition, and that was something that I actually considered in addition to being a figure skating coach. At one point, I thought, oh, maybe I'd like be a nutritionist or something.
Yeah, amazing.
Science classes were so hard. I was like, maybe I'll
Yeah.
learn on like a
Yeah,
like
you can always learn. I mean, yeah, you can always do research, and then if you want to go maybe and study for it, yeah, it's always good to know, even if you don't want to do as a job for yourself, always be prepared to know. Yeah, definitely. So when you swap to the plant,
class. Like you don't.
sorry?
So I realized like you don't have to take like the basic chemistry class and like biology that's so hard to like learn what you're eating. So it's something I'd love to do more research on my own. But sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, don't worry, don't worry. So that's really interesting because even before I became like a coach, a nutrition coach, and everything, especially when I wanted to go and swap to the plant-based diet, I always go for research and, knowing more. It just usually supports your change and anything that we want to know. You want knowledge because then you know what you're doing, what is in your plate, so important to know. And yeah,
Yeah.
always good. So when you swap to the vegan lifestyle, did you have support in your skating community? Like, did you know anyone that it was vegan or did go plant-based after you did? Did you have any support?
So when I first went vegan, I don't think I knew any vegan figure skaters, and I
Okay.
like most people who I talk to both at the rink and elsewhere don't really understand. And I think because we don't have any close contact with like the animal cruelty that actually goes into producing
Mm,
their animal products, a lot of people just don't make the connection. Like they have a pet cat, they have a pet dog, they love that cat or dog, they'll make sacrifices for them, they regard them as having a life that's valuable, and they just don't have the same connection to other animals. That was actually part of why I started my skating account on here, my skating and coaching
yeah.
account, was to bring awareness to my veganism in the skating community and to show other people that it exists and it's possible. And I actually started a group account too called Vegan Skaters Club for anyone who's interested in going vegan or becoming a figure skater, with two of my
Yeah.
friends here who are vegan figure skaters who, went vegan after becoming skaters. And like one of the first posts that we made was encouraging others to share pictures of their vegan figure skates. to kind of bring awareness, one, to the fact that there are vegan figure skates, because not everyone, you know, even knows that they exist. And also for anyone who's going out to buy a new pair of skates, to kind of make them think, like, there's, you know, there's considerations of, oh, what fits my foot better? But there's also, you know, high-level skate brands that make fully vegan figure skates, and there are moral considerations that you can take into account too when you're choosing your skates. Because that was one of the last things that I switched over, because I never thought very much about it.
Yeah.
Figure skates,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, these are made of leather, and I definitely don't want to be promoting that to anyone else. I don't want to be a part of that process. So I switched over to the Idea piano figure skate, which is a fully vegan boot, and I'm, you know, really happy with it all for me. So
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that I think everyone asks me, like once they want to swap to a plant-based, they always tell me, yeah, but what that means, what's the difference between plant-based and vegan? So not many people know that it's not just food, like you said, it's products that you use in the house, hygiene products, and all the other stuff that you're not aware just because if you don't look into the ingredients or how they're tested and all the other stuff, you just don't know. And you presume it's just, let's say, normal to use them and not be careful what you buy. So that's one of the other things that I wanted to ask. So after you did all the transition to the, let's say, food side, how did the transition to do all the other stuff, like maybe the clothes, like you said, and all the other stuff? It was gradual, or you did like in step once you knew that everything else it was a byproduct maybe of animals?
that's a great question. So the most obvious thing for me was my skates. Like I looked at them as like, that's not good. We need to change that. But something else that I think I did like shortly after was all of my like moisturizers, like skincare products, like the shampoo that I use, making sure that it's not tested on animals. And I did have to like switch over a few things because I discovered that some of those companies were doing that. And it's just not, again, it's when you don't see it, it makes me have more empathy for people who I get frustrated with, who I see, you know, at the supermarket, like buying meat. I'm like, how can you do that? But it feels, you know, to them, I think it's a similar disconnect as it was for me, like looking at a container of moisturizer. Like I just wouldn't, you know, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
those two things that I really had to switch over. I never wore like a lot of leather. Like I wear like I wear like tennis shoes that don't have a lot of leather. They're not
Yeah.
very expensive, so like leather or whatever. So for me, it was mostly just like switching over like basic products, like my shampoo, my moisturizer, and then the obvious one was my skates.
Yeah, it was exactly the same. Once I swapped, everybody was asking me, yeah, but look at that. They tested on rats, they tested on, you know, mice and whatever. So everybody's like, you know, it's like you're contradicting yourself. So
Right.
once I did all my research and everything, it's like, oh my God, this, and on everything that you even don't know really.
Right.
So I did all the transition, but many people don't understand there needs to be gradual. I will never say to anyone, oh, just throw everything that you have now and just start to use it, you know, and buy.
Yeah.
So it's always like a transition, like it is on the nutrition side. It needs to be in all the other parts of your life and routine and everything else. So, yeah. So did you add any prejudice or anyone that told you, oh, you will not be able to do your sport or have enough energy because you are plant-based? So did anyone try to convince you to just swap back to omnivorous diet?
So I personally didn't have anyone pressuring me not to go vegan, but I think like the coaches, I think they knew that, you know, I mean, I was already vegetarian and I was very like vocal about that. I think they knew there was no point in trying to convince me. I know that like with some of their younger athletes, like a lot of, like, you know, you need protein, you need to make sure that you're eating enough, getting enough nutrition, and that's completely true. Like you can't just go vegan. Like you have to make sure that you're doing it in a way that is healthy for you, especially as like a growing kid who's an athlete. I think that's really important. I was lucky that no one pressured me that way, but a lot of people would say to me, you know, people in the coaching room would be like, what do you eat? Like, can you eat bread? And it was just weird to me. I'm like, yeah, I can. I'm like, what do you think I eat? Do you think I just go home and eat like lettuce? It's interesting what people what their conception of what their conception of veganism is, and how it just doesn't occur to them like what that would even mean. So then sometimes like for, you know, the holidays, I would bring people a Christmas present and be like, you know, oh, here are some cookies. P.S. They're vegan, you know, and like I think people, you know, imagine that it won't taste good, or maybe they had like one vegan product that wasn't good. because it's like everything.
Mm,
And there's plenty of the animal products that are good and like taste good, and plenty that don't taste good. And the same is true with veganism. So that's one thing that I find frustrating.
yeah,
Oh, I tried like vegan chocolate or whatever, like it's not good. I'm like, you tried
yeah,
one kind of vegan chocolate. Like there's, you have to find what works for you, like with everything in life. Like with a pair of skates, like oftentimes you'll buy a pair of skates, it'll seem to kind of fit at the store, and then like you find that they're terrible, they don't work at all, and you have to, go through the process of figuring out what works for you. And the same is true, with your diet,
yeah,
going vegan.
exactly. I mean, I can only, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine like how we were before. If nowadays that you can find option everywhere, they're still wondering what we eat, and now we're
Yeah,
still alive, and we function, and how we're not weak without meat. I can only imagine like before how we used to be, like the concept of eating maybe just salad, rabbit food, and
right.
so it's yeah, but nowadays there's more information, and yeah, hopefully more people maybe they will consider, not maybe not swapping, but just consider, because that's why I started this series, to just give information. I will never say like go vegan. I wish, but
Right.
just getting information out there for people to understand is the first step that we can do. Because I mean, how they teach in school, the other side, let's say, we can still do it, in our way, maybe different way, but there's never like wrong side, as long as you know both, you know what to pick. Because if you don't know, it's just, yeah, you haven't got the choice, because the only choice they give you, maybe your parents, it was
Yeah.
that I want to eat meat and all the other stuff. So at least we have a choice now, because there's so much out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can do whatever age, so there's no limit to do so. So yeah, so let's have a look some question, because I have some. So one question was, what would you like to say to people that believes that someone cannot be an athlete on plant-based diets?
So I think again, people think you can't get enough protein. People think that you're just not going to be as strong. You're not going to have as much, and like that's the stereotypical concern, right? And I think
Yeah,
there's the same concern with people just in general for their nutrition. Like that was why when I was young, like my mom would say, okay, you have to have 3 bites of like the fish or the chicken or whatever, because
yeah,
they're like protein. But there's so many different protein sources that you can eat both as an athlete and just, as a person going through your life. And there's no nutritional reason why it's going to be any different, why you can't get the same nutrients. And I have some people say to me, like, they know about like the plant-based meat, like people in the coaching room say, but like, oh, like what are they putting in that? They'll say, that can't be good for you. Like, what is that? Like artificial meat? Like it sounds weird.
yeah,
But at the same time, I can say back to them, like, well, what about the cow that you're eating? Like, what did they put in that? Like, what hormones did they give that like you're now eating? Even if you're not like, on board with the moral side of things yet, if you're worried about, eating something that's bad for you, there's an much better argument, I think, to be made against the animal-based proteins.
yeah, absolutely. So let's see another question. hmm Okay, so do you use any supplements? I know you partially answered before, but do you use any supplement, or do you think someone that swapped to plant-based diet should use any supplement?
It probably depends on like your personal needs and like how much protein you're eating like before you switch. Like it might be hard if you're someone who's like, you know, doing something where you're trying to build muscle and like, like do bodybuilding or something. If you're eating like a ton of protein, it might help you. And that might be something regardless of whether you're plant-based to begin with, that you're already taking supplements and like you just switched to vegan supplements. So for me personally, I don't take any, but I also, I felt pretty good and pretty strong as a vegetarian. And I felt when I switched over to being vegan, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I didn't feel like I needed to supplement for anything in terms of protein. Again,
Yeah,
just making sure that I take a B12 supplement, because it is really hard to get B12 as a vegan. And I personally take a vegan multivitamin every day too, just to make sure that I'm getting everything, because I'm not, the world's most responsible at keeping track of everything that I eat kind of person. I'm like, okay, this way I know I'm covered as far as
yeah,
and if I don't feel like I have enough energy, I'm like, I always have an extra protein bar in my bag, and I can
yeah,
do that. I know a lot of people love making, like, I see people on Instagram making like the coolest like smoothies with like protein powder.
yeah.
It's amazing. And it's not something I've tried, but hey, maybe one day. I'm completely open to it. I know a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
people love it.
because maybe you're busy or you just don't
Yeah,
like to cook, maybe. Is it be both?
I never really, so I think it's partly that I just never really got into cooking. Um,
Yeah,
like, I mean, I'd make like, vegan mac and cheese, or I would make, you know, like literally just like cereal, lentil soup, like the simplest possible things. But it's
yeah.
partly because like I'm always running around. Like I don't drive. I have a driver's license, but I take the bus to work every day. So I'm always like
Okay.
wanting to catch the bus. I'm always in a hurry. Um, so I think it's mostly lack of time. I don't have a very big kitchen, so I don't have like an ideal space to do it. But it is something that I would love to get into just a little bit. Like people who do like meal prep, so they're like really deliberate about what they're eating for the week. So then at least some weeks I'm not eating like a ton of takeout. Like I could eat more like clean food,
Hmm.
at least some of it.
Yeah,
That's something that I think I would like to move toward. I'm definitely not at an ideal spot with that right now. I'm a much more immoral vegan than like a
yeah.
health vegan. I try to eat like relatively well, but yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
not
Yeah, I mean, it's not for everything. Cook is something that or you like it or you don't. Personally, I just love to cook, and I do meal prep and all the other stuff just because I need to track my macros as I'm doing bodybuilding and all the other stuff. So I just do it because it's kind of, my goals to build muscle and all the other stuff.
right.
And about supplement, I just always advise to take multivitamins, even if you're not vegan, just
Right.
because nowadays with all the processed food and all this stuff, we're not getting all the vitamins and mineral that is supposed to be on the food, but through the process they take it out. So I always say that you should. You don't have to, but it's like if you're not vegan. I mean, especially because, for example, I live here in UK. Vitamin D for us is so important
Hmm.
because we don't get much sun, and it's so important for our health. So it always depends, like you said, what's your goal, where you live, and what you
Yeah.
want to achieve. Multivitamins, just like I said, because you will need it just for extra support. But yeah, it's not just because you are vegan. And
Right.
B12, yeah, I will definitely say yes. B12, I will say yeah, and all the other one maybe optional. So yeah, let's see the next question. So, do you have any stretching routine that you practice every day?
Yeah. So as a figure skater, like most of like the spins and spirals that we do, like the extended positions that we hold, do require a lot of flexibility. So I stretch for about 45 minutes every day. So I usually do that either after I've skated, if I have a break in my schedule before I coach, I will stretch then, or I stretch at the end of the day when I get home. And I do like, I do a lot of stretches for my legs. Like I do split warm ups, I do splits, I do like a version of over splits where you lay on your back and like pull your leg toward your face because that's like one of the spin positions that we do.
Yeah,
I do, like hip stretches because as a skater, my hips like are very tight. I think partly just because of how I'm built, but also from what I do. And
yeah,
well are really important, both just like for keeping range of motion, and for like the spins that I do. So yeah, I stretch a lot. I like usually 45 minutes. Um,
yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I stretch as well. Like, I usually stretch on my rest day because doing weights all the time, I mean, your range of motion, it can be really good, but your flexibility is not. And sometimes people, they think they're correlated to each other, but I don't think. Depends on which sport you usually do.
right.
So for me, because of course, building muscle, just you really contract your muscle, they always contracts all the time, so stretch is really important. So I opt usually for yoga or gentle stretch in the morning and then yoga later in the day. So even
Mhm.
if you're not doing sport, it's really a good practice to do, especially if
Yeah,
someone is sitting all the time, maybe office job and all the other stuff. So it's always a good idea. So
yeah,
let's see next question. Yeah,
like a little bit because he sits, most of the day.
yeah.
You at least like touch your toes, or you're not gonna be able to tie your shoes at some point.
Yeah. So the other question was, oh, is your family vegan?
Oh,
Someone asked that.
so now, yes. So I convinced my boyfriend to be vegetarian. It was at his prompting that we looked into dairy and became vegan. And my mom, who was the one who always thought, oh, you need to get, protein, you need to make sure that you're, eating meat to make sure you have enough protein. As a growing kid, like she is now vegetarian. So I eventually was able to convince her to be vegetarian. The only animal product I think that she eats now is like a little bit of dairy. And my dad is like almost vegan. So
Okay.
he's also someone who, maybe I get this from him, but he doesn't really cook. So there's like a few things I know, like he'll get like a green smoothie that has like yogurt in
Okay.
it, but he's almost vegan, so he's really close. But
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
my parents, they're getting close. We're working on it. Oh, and actually my boyfriend's parents are vegan now. So they didn't eat
Wow.
for reasons, but over the summer they actually started eating fully vegan. So
Amazing.
hopefully they'll keep liking it and keep doing it.
Amazing. Yeah, love it. So next question. What's your favorite vegan dish?
Ooh, that's a really good question. That's
Yeah.
gonna be one of it's gonna be one of the amazing things that I eat out because they are much better cooks than I am. Probably, I'm gonna go with probably like the broccoli with garlic sauce and like sesame tofu from like a Chinese restaurant.
Oh,
That's amazing. Or depending on where you get it, I've had it be great and I've had it be like really average. But if you find a good vegan pad thai, like I really love Asian food. But yeah, vegan pad thai, that is also, if it's good,
I
that is.
don't think I ever tried it. No, I don't think so.
Oh, really?
So
If you come across a Thai restaurant that has like the option to do everything vegan, I highly, highly recommend. Super good.
yeah, I usually never eat takeaway to be honest. So
Yeah, healthier than I am. I feel like you're
yeah.
getting it.
So that's why maybe. But I just love tempeh. So that's one of my favorite, I think, foods. Yeah, love it. Amazing. So let's see if I got anything else here. Okay, so why you think a plant-based diet is the best for your health?
So that's a good question. I guess it depends on how you do it. Like you can definitely eat a plant-based diet that is terrible for your health. You can eat, just like vegan ice cream and,
Yeah,
cereal, and you can eat stuff that's totally like nutritionally vapid. You can eat, candy with like red dye and like processed everything. I think it's in one sense, no different than animal product based diet, and that you can do it really well, and you can also do it in a way that's not good for you. But I also understand that like dairy is not something that our bodies tend to like respond well to. This is something I've been told. Again, I haven't done the research myself, so I'm not speaking to this as someone who like has extensive knowledge, but I've heard that it's like inflammatory to our bodies.
yes,
That
yeah,
it's actually not good for us at all. And I'm not sure about meat, but I know like red meats are not supposed to be very good for us. So like, people talk about like fish or chicken
yeah.
being like healthier meat. Again, I don't know that much about it, but I know that it's supposed, like, there are a lot of ways that you can do both that are unhealthy, but they're like dairy may be like inherently unhealthy to us, whereas like oat milk is, I don't think there's anything that that's gonna do to us.
Yeah, there is many research that actually prove that as humans, we're not supposed to have any dairy or gluten. That's why there's so many people that are intolerant to that. So there was like a research that proved that they said that we are the only animal that have milk after they grow up. So that
Yeah,
says it all, right?
and
So there's so many, yeah. We are. So the animals that just drink it when they little, right? Then they just grow up and that's it. So we should do the same, but unfortunately we don't. And that's one of the things that people they maybe not aware that, for example, like milk powder is like everywhere. And we don't even know. Like that's one of the things I remember when I swapped that when I used to go through the list of the ingredients, I'm like, why there is milk powder on that? On
yeah,
that. I'm like, it's so strange, right?
things, but I'm like, what is milk fat? What is that ingredient? Why is it there? But yeah, going vegan, I realize how many things where I'm like, I don't even know what that is that we're in, like what I'm eating.
Yeah, I think maybe, well, talking for myself, that when I swap, I was just be aware a bit more about the ingredient list and all the other stuff, just because I had to be careful to
Right.
read, right? Even sometimes if it says vegan, we all double check if
Yeah.
it is, right? We all do that, just to double check, because sometimes there's either ingredients or all the other stuff, and so always checking it. So it just gave me like a motivation to look all the time, even though it's say I know it's vegan, to look for ingredients, just to be aware of it, because most of the time if we look at the label, half of the ingredients we don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine if, let's say, when I wasn't vegan and I was eating all that stuff. I mean, we don't even know. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So let's see if we got more question.
On the package, as well as like looking at the ingredients just to like make sure. It's surprising.
I know, it's incredible. Actually, because many like food company, they can actually lie about what ingredients. So what I've been reading and researching for it, that they can lie on 20% or about the ingredients, about the calorie that they put on the actual label and food. So they can. That's what they do. Like when I become a nutrition coach and everything, and I've been studying all this stuff, I couldn't believe that they actually allowed to lie about the calories and all this stuff just because they have that margin of error. They can actually use it. And most of them, they do just because, of course, they want to promote, for example, there is low calorie and all the other stuff. So it's so interesting about what we don't know if we don't actually study that kind of subject, so yeah, there's so much that we don't know what's on our plate. And it's scary. It's scary because we're not even aware, and it's harming us, and we don't know really. We don't know. So
Like I'd love to take a class on, because I would love to know more and be able to tell other people more too. Like
yes,
when someone asks me about going vegan, or like ask me about the health side of it, I'm like, I can tell them that I feel good and that like you can get enough protein, but I'd love to be able to tell them more and have like the evidence to back it up. So that's definitely something I'd
yeah, definitely, yeah. So another question: do you practice any weight training?
no, I do like strength exercises, but nothing where I do weights. I just use like my own body weight. So I'll do like leg lifts, I do planks, side planks. I do like calf raises to like strengthen the muscles around my ankles, squats. So nothing with like actual weights, partly just because I don't live like close enough to a gym and I'm busy. So I have like a quick set of strength exercise stuff that I've been given by like physical therapists for injuries that I do like 5-6 days a week, but nothing extensive. Like
Yeah,
depends on where you're at with your, like, as a figure skater, some people really need to build more strength because they're not able to like complete the jumps that they want to do yet or anything, but I'm strong enough to do all my jumps, so it's more like maintenance
yeah,
and like injury prevention once you've kind of like built the muscles that you need. But like for some of the younger kids, like they have to do a lot more, which I kind
yeah,
of got from gymnastics. I think that's partly like I was very lucky that gymnastics was my first sport. I think it's like dangerous once you get to a certain level, especially if you don't have access to like a really good gym or good training. Like where I was doing it, we didn't have a spring floor, which is standard.
yeah,
Like to have that to even like execute a lot of the skills. So I could only get so far because we just had like mats that were rolled out over like a concrete floor. So I had like no spring to it. But with gymnastics, like they do so much like full body conditioning. I was already really quite strong when I started skating. So that was something that really helped me a lot. And I already knew a lot of stretches from doing gymnastics, like strength exercises. So it wasn't hard for me to like get into a routine with that.
yeah, amazing. Especially if you do all these kinds of sports since you are really in your early years and all that, it's easier because I started to like dance when I was really little, and then so I was in sport all my life. So when you usually start early, then you always be in a kind of sport because you just used to be that active.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really good for the body anyway. So yeah, amazing. So another question, that will be last one. Did you ever compete?
Oh, it's yeah. So I competed, but not in the way that most single skaters and like single skaters at my level do. So most people who are in like a competitive area, if they're doing single skating, which means you go out there on your own, you skate a program with jumps and spins, competitors, they'll try to do like the regionals, sectionals, nationals track, where regionals, like everyone, goes, it's exciting. And if you place in the top 4 there, you go to sectionals if you're up to a certain level. The little kids, it's just, they win a medal and it's great. But the higher levels, you advance to sectionals, and from there you would advance to nationals if you place top 4 sectionals. I never did any of that. So I grew up in like a very rural area that didn't have like a lot of a lot of skating, didn't have like the most access. And I also started when I was 12. So I did high school competitions, which isn't, you have the option to go out there and do a program, which I did. But you also can do just like elements, and you're out there on the ice with your friends, and like you go one at a time. Like one person will do a spin, one person will do a jump. So I did that, and that was fun. So wasn't very competitive with it, and didn't have to deal with like the stress of competition, which I think is hard for a lot of kids. Like if you're really good, and you're training really hard, you want to do that, and it's exciting and it's rewarding. But I did more, again, starting later and not skating as much as you have to be super competitive. I did it for fun. And I also, in addition to competing, there are tests that you can take. So I took all my moves in the field and freestyle tests, and there's like 8 of each. So if you take all of these tests, like you get the title of like US figure skating, like gold medalist and like moves in the field and in freestyle. So that's something for a lot of my students that I encourage them to try to get as far through that as they can, ideally finish them, because when you apply to college, that looks good. It shows that you have discipline. And then you can also, coach. Like most places will be happy to see that most rinks will be happy to see that you've passed all these tests. And that was something that I did in my process toward becoming a coach too, because I still skate, and I coach full time as well. And that was something that I think helped me to be a better coach and helped me to get the job that I have. So competing a little bit, I mostly took my tests, and then after that I started to work on, basically becoming a better skater and achieving more of my goals.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, because I was wondering myself, how do you become a coach? It's just because you're in the field you can start to coach. Of course you have to have a proper certification and stuff to coach. How does it work? I don't know nothing about that, so sorry.
Really interesting, because it depends on the rink. So certain rinks will have a requirement, like if you want to teach freestyle, if you want to teach jumps and spins, you have to have passed your novice pre-skate test, or you have to have passed, they can just kind of decide. Some rinks want to see like a PSA rating, which is like the Professional Skaters Association. You can go to their conferences and you can take tests, which I haven't done. I took my figure skating test, but I didn't take these tests as a coach, where you'll go and they'll ask you okay, what's the order of the field moves on all these tests? Ways that you would correct this mistake on an axle. So that's another way that you can establish your knowledge, both to clients and also to rinks if you're applying to them. So, and in different areas, it's totally different. Like some places, that are more rural and there might not even be very many coaches. There are people who are teaching who, haven't done very much with their own skating, or as a coach, but they can teach there. And sometimes, you get better as you do it too. Like there are people who are really good skaters who have an easy time getting a coaching job. And then you kind of learn on the job how to be a better coach. Cause it's interesting, certain things that you do very easily, you don't necessarily know how to teach them. You have to, think a lot about it and figure it out. And I mean, I'm lucky that I'm at a rink with a pretty supportive, environment, and a lot of coaches who helped me a lot. I mean, still do, but helped me a lot, especially when I was getting started with my students and learning how to teach things. And I was lucky to be at a rink where there's actually a junior coach program. So for people who are skaters and want to become a coach, they usually require you to do junior coaching first. So I actually got to observe lessons with a lot of different coaches and see how they were correcting their students. And it was so useful to me to see how someone else teaches. And then I could apply that to my own lessons. So I found that really helpful. So it really depends on the rink. There's no formula for becoming a coach. Have different requirements. But for me, it was, passing my tests and then working with mentor coaches. And I still do that even though I'm a full coach now, which is fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so interesting, because I don't know that much about it. I always see competition TV and all, the high level and all, because I don't know anyone, to be honest, around me that does practice sport. So it's so interesting to know all this stuff, and love it. Thank you so much for sharing anyway. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So last question, if you want to tell anything, maybe any tips to anyone that want to approach a vegan lifestyle. So anything that you would like to share to someone that really wants to, but doesn't know where to start.
So I guess I tell all of my, friends, anyone who expresses an interest in it, I tell them every time you make a vegan choice, you're doing something good. You don't have to be overwhelmed and be wait, okay, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to eat for dinner? Say you're going out to a restaurant with your friend. Looking
Yeah.
at a time, see, like, some restaurants will label things as like vegan or say like vegan option available. You know, you could,
Yeah.
something simple as that can be your first step. Looking into the like products that you use, like, you know, your clothes, your skincare stuff. Like, there's plenty of you know, cruelty-free products that you can try. Maybe you just want to switch from dairy milk to oat milk, and that can be an amazing first step. And I actually think it tastes better too. Like, I never really liked milk anyway. Like, I liked things that
Yeah.
were based, but
Yeah.
you know, oat milk on its own, I think tastes better, and it works just as well in, like, you know, things like chocolate and ice cream. So I would say, like, don't overwhelm yourself. Like, pick something that you feel comfortable switching, that you feel like is a good start for you, and that's different for everyone. It can be something, you know, as simple as just for that one day you're going out to eat, like, find a vegan option and give it a try. Or, you know, try a plant-based milk. And again, there's multiple options. Like, there's
Yeah.
cashew milk, there's almond milk. You know, just experiment and see what works for you.
Yeah, I think anything that you want to do in life, there's always a way if you really want it.
Yeah.
You know, there's always a way around, and changes in general, they're not easy anyway. But like I
Yeah.
said, nowadays they're easier than before. So yeah, so we'll have a look if we got any question live here, and then if not, I'll let you go. Let's see. Oh, I think there's one for you because it's about skating, so I don't know. Can you see it?
Oh wait. Someone says,
Yeah.
your skater. Wait, I have to scroll. Oh, I see one of my friends joined. Wait.
It's on the bottom. So yeah, I have something. I have a roller skate. That one.
Wait, I'm not seeing it. Is it, wait, did you say it's at the bottom? I see
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah. So it's the last questions that we have. So you just need to go down.
Oh, I don't see it. Oh, wait, I see. Or I see. I'm also a vegan figure skater. Oh, cool. But I don't see it. Can you read it off to me? 'Cause I can't find it. I don't know why.
Let's have a look. Mm, Oh, I lost it. It's just the
Oh,
last question.
I found one that's farther up. What chocolate do you eat? I find the
Okay.
chocolate disgusting. Um, that's a question. So that's not something, I don't eat it as like a regular part of my diet, but when you go to the grocery store, like, there are options, like, there will be like a percent, like how dark it is. So you might
Yeah.
get disgusting if you're getting something that's like, you know, 70, 80%. So I would suggest looking for something that's like like milk chocolate version, like the lighter. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes people buy something that's like too dark of a chocolate. That's a great. I wish
Yeah.
there were a brand in my mind. But I don't, like, it's not something I eat super regularly. What about you? Do you have like a vegan chocolate that you like eating?
Well, the thing is, I like milk chocolate, so not that dark. But for what I do, I can eat just more. It needs to be more than 80%. So it was like really difficult. I need to be honest. In the beginning, to have that bitter taste
Yeah.
because it's bitter, right? I just got used to it because I usually have to mix it with oats or other stuff. So I never eat on their own. But I need to eat 90% or 100%. So
Wow.
yeah, I know.
I feel like, yeah, it's something you use, but I know there's options. I'm so sorry. I wish I had like a brand that I could recommend to you. And I can, you know, I know someone who would definitely know the answer. I will like put it on my story. Maybe I'll even make a highlight for like vegan chocolates to make suggestions.
Right. Yeah, I can't remember mine. It's a really good brand, but I can't remember, to be honest.
I find that like I often, like, I know what things look like too when I go to the store. So I'm like, I know what I'm looking for. And if someone asks me like, what like yogurt do you eat? I'm like, oh, I mean, that I know, but with most
Yeah.
things, that's a good brand. But it's surprised, like, you'd be surprised what things that you might already eat are vegan though. Like, I feel like this is kind of a well-known one, but like Oreos, not the healthiest thing in the world, but like very tasty, and those are vegan, surprisingly.
Oh, I know.
But
And I feel like, yeah, definitely. Yeah, just have a look if there is any more question. Let's see if
what
you can.
skating training did you do during lockdown off ice? Great question. So the first, like, after 3 days of my rink shutting down, I actually injured myself doing off ice. I like smashed my shin into a cement bench that I was jumping onto. Did not have any. So for the first month, I was forced to do like nothing, and it was so frustrating. I couldn't do because I had to wait for my stitches to heal. I couldn't do anything. But after that, I did basically like my usual off ice training, but a lot more. So instead of skating 3 sessions a day, I was just off ice. So I would go outside and I would do like my jumps. Like I would do like, I would do 10 double axles. I would do 10 triple stop cows. I would do 10 triple toes. I would try to like basically do the same number of repetitions that I would do like on ice. But
Okay.
also added working on my spinner, which I don't know if you have a spinner, anyone who's watching who's a skater, but they're so difficult to spin on. It's like super frustrating. At least all the ones that I've used. It's really like it's not like spinning on the ice. If you tried one, it's very very hard to get a lot of rotation. It's difficult to balance. But I spent like a couple hours a day while my stitches were healing before I could jump. I was like, okay, I can't do anything else. It's like I'm gonna stretch, and I'm gonna go on my spinner. And I did like I got a lot better with it, and that was something.
Yeah.
Like at least it kind of kept me working out, kept me interested.
Yeah.
I recently discovered a spinner. Actually, I don't have it myself. I have like several different spinners, but I couldn't find one. Like they often don't fit your whole foot unless you're like 6 years old and have a tiny foot. So it's really difficult to use them. But it's called the Mad Spinner. Their account is like the Mad Spinner 8 or something. They have one that's like 12 inches. Like their big size one is like 12 inches and it's not too expensive. So you can use both feet. You can do like the rotational exercises on 2 feet for your jumps, and your foot will fit.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's like easy to spin on because I haven't tried it, but that was a promising option. So for anyone who's still in lockdown, I would say work like really hard on your flexibility. If you normally don't have time to do it every day and you do it like 3 days a week, try to do it 5. If you have a spinner, work on your spinner. Consider getting one. If you have room at home or it's not too cold outside, like do your off ice. I see someone else asks, is it okay to split 2 30-minute workouts into 2 instead of doing it at once? Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, you just want to make sure, like, depending on what you're doing, that you're warmed up for it. So, like, when I do my off-ice jumps, like, I wouldn't go right to a double axel. Like, I would do, like, a quick warm-up, like running, doing, like, hops, doing basic rotational exercises, doing some singles. I think splitting up your workouts, like, do what's manageable for you. It's the same thing, like, with going vegan. I feel like some people think, oh, I have to, like, I want to do this. I want to be a skater. I'm going to 3 hours a day, like from the beginning. I actually have a friend who did that, and he's incredible. Okay. He doesn't have like he doesn't work with a coach. He doesn't get to go on a harness or anything. Right. He started like from day one. I think he told me he did like an hour and a half on his spinner every day and like 3-hour public session. It was like crazy. He was doing so much from the beginning. But by no means do you have to do that. So I think split it up in a way that works for you. Make sure you're warmed up for something like jumps and actually stretching too. I always like recommend it before people come to my stretch classes, like that they warm up a little bit, because if your muscles are warm before you stretch, it will be a lot easier and better for your body. You don't know.
Amazing. All right. So anything else? Anyone else? Can you see anything else?
I don't see anything else. I feel like I missed the one at the bottom though. I never saw it.
Don't know.
I missed one of your questions.
Let's have a look if I can find it now.
Hello to everyone who waved. Hope you're having a
Sometimes they're just late, They're just late.
If we missed you and you want to type it now, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Okay, so if anyone wants to ask something else, maybe they can DM us in private. If we miss anything, sorry, just because sometimes it's a bit late on the Instagram live, the question. So just in case, you can DM us, all right? Okay, then. Thank you so much again. It was amazing having a chat with you to discover all these things I didn't know.
Thank you so much for watching. If you have any question, please pop it here below, and don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you tune in for next week's episode. It will be live on my IG, on my Instagram. So I will put it here so you can watch it live and then you can rewatch it here. I will upload it here on YouTube a few days later. So you make sure you make good choices, you take care of yourself, and thank you for watching. Bye.